Hi, today we're going to be talking about organizational structure in the movie White Chicks that was made in 2004. Um, so first, let's look at what kind of organizations were present. We have formal and informal, and like organic or inorganic. So we have formal, which was the FBI, and then organic or informal, which was the kind of like the Copeland brothers, like that people. They turned into an organization later on, and then also the Hamptons, just in general, like the people that lived there, that were throwing the event and stuff like that. For the FBI, they are a functional and hierarchical group. They have high specialization, extensive departmentalization, narrow control, and high formalization and centralized decision making. These are all qualities of more of a hierarchical, like kind of organization. And so one way that we can especially see this is in Gordon, their boss, who had a lot of the decision-making factors. With that, though, because he had authoritative power, but he had laissez-faire style of leadership, he was very laid back, lazy, and didn't have a lot of input or directional guidance, which is very needed in functional or hierarchical businesses, because those are not adept at creative processes or solution making by yourself. It comes from like usually a higher up authority that tells you what to do and how to act and all that stuff. Other organizations that we can look at that have a similar structure are like the Marines or something like that. So anywho, we can see that with his laissez-faire style of leadership, that it led to the Copeland brothers having to be a lot more creative, problem solving, just because they didn't have anybody there to really provide them with any direction. And so along with that, they had a punishment a lot of times. And so functional and hierarchical often lead with, in this case, reward versus punishment. And with that leading with reward versus punishment, it's good for stable environments for sure, with very predictable tasks and dynamics. It can be motivating to a point, but then again, it's also like, well, how long do I have to go? And keep getting like this treating of like getting poked in the back with a stick while also having a carrot in front of you. So yeah, it's motivating, which is nice, but then also like demotivating in a lot of ways. And so this is a good dynamic for the FBI usually, but in this case it was a bad dynamic, especially with Gordon, because he wasn't really present. So it caused a lot of problems that required a lot of rapid adaptation. Sorry for the interruption. We can see that when the FBI, and we can see this in a study done by Lawrence and Lorsch, that there was a lot of failure for these functional groups with very hierarchical structure, that in times of like chaos and panic, the system kind of just like fell down. And it's like, it's good for most instances of like the daily life, but when something needs to have like emergencies happen relatively frequently, or something changes often, it's not very good or helpful. And then looking at two informal groups, the organic one, which was the Hamptons, it is team-based and matrix. I classified these this way because everybody kind of has their own teams or friend groups that they're with, and they have their own responsibilities towards each group, and so that might be split and crossed, which makes it matrix and team. Obviously, there is the Hamptons High Society, like people who are throwing the event, but besides that, the individuals in their own groups and teams kind of have those differences that make them team-based and matrix. With that, the Copeland brothers are inside of both the groups of the FBI and the Hamptons, which are structured very differently. And so we can see that there are a lot with that matrix structure, because they have two different people they report to, because their roles as the Wilson sisters and then being those FBI agents. We can see that the responsibilities were mixed, and this created a lot of friction, where the FBI was like a more horizontal authority, and and playing the part of the Wilson sisters was more of like a social structure that was like horizontal. And so with both of those kind of layering on top of each other, they created a lot of conflicted duties. And this is an example, or there are many examples that can be found in case studies of put together in research done by Davis and Lawrence in 1977. And it was kind of like they compiled all these research like attributes and case studies, and it showed that like matrix structures were the best because there were because of the fact that there were a lot of differing responsibilities that kind of conflicted with one another. And so in the end, something that I would recommend for this is that not to really have a matrix structure and have a very clear hierarchical if it's more of an established group. And so with that, my recommendation is that they have a clear outline, as I said, hierarchical, and this would reduce conflict in future events. Thank you for coming to my TikTok.